Okay, the easiest CheckDB to run remotely is going to be connected mode with no restore. So let's take a look at how we set that up and run it, and you're going to find it's really easy. So I'm going to be here on my local host, and I am going to run a CheckDB from the Minion dev database. And so I am in, here, let me show you. I am in the CheckDB settings DB table right there. And I'm going to come down here. I've got a custom row for Minion dev, and I'm on CheckDB because if you remember from the theory video, which you should have watched by now, if you have not watched that initial theory video, then you need to go watch it so you know what's going on. This only works for CheckDB. So to set this up is really simple. All I need to do is I need to say is remote equals true. I need to set up the preferred server. I need to give the preferred server port. If it has a separate port from 1433, if it's 1433, just leave it null. I need to give it a preferred DB name. Now, these columns, these two columns for preferred DB and preferred job name, they both support inline tokens. Preferred server does not support inline tokens. You have to give me an actual server or instance name, right? But for the preferred database name, it supports inline tokens. And if you don't know how to use inline tokens, then go watch the inline tokens video. I think you're really going to love that feature. Now, so here, by using the token DB name, it is going to look for the exact same database name that I pass into Minion CheckDB. In this case, it's going to be Minion dev. So I am going to take a CheckDB of the Minion dev database on the Minion DevCon server. So let's go ahead and see. And that's all I really need to do for this is I need to, and I'll go over it again. Is remote equals true? Set the server, set the port, leave it null if it's 1433. Tell me what database on that foreign server you want. And the remote job name isn't necessary because we're not doing any remote restores, or actually because we're in connected mode, the remote job name isn't necessary. You need to tell me what mode you want it to be in. In this case, we're going to be in connected mode. And, you know, hopefully you have drop remote database set to false. You know, if you want to delete it, you can, but, you know, you probably don't. But just make sure that that's set to false if you don't want to delete it. Okay, now let's go ahead and go run it. So we are going to run CheckDB master. We're going to pass in CheckDB, and we're only going to do one database right now. We're interested in Minion dev. So let's go ahead and run that and see if we get our remote CheckDB. By the way, I ran the last known good on that server. So for Minion dev right now, the last time CheckDB was run was on 2017-111. So let's see if we get anything good out of that. Also, let's go ahead and see if we can get any log details. Here we are. It looks like it's already finished. There we go. So status complete. And that is today, 1/16/7/17. Yep, this is today. Okay, so it's already finished. Let's see, it's done. Now let's go ahead and check out our stats. So I've status complete. Okay, so status is complete. It's 100%. The database I was running the CheckDB on was Minion dev. The CheckDB I actually ran it on was Minion dev, because remember I used the inline token for that. The NetBIOS name of the computer, of the host computer, was BindyCon. The preferred server was Minion DevCon. It is a remote. Here's the preferred DB name that was passed in there. It was done in connected mode. The op name was CheckDB. And then we've got all these other stats here that we're not really interested in. And you can see the command right here that it ran it against Minion Dev. So there we go. And because we have this % complete, As a matter of fact, let me show you. This is the 757 run, right? I go by the milliseconds, so it's the 757 run. And if I come in here to the CheckDB result table, there we go. And let's order by execution date time descending. There we go. There's my 757 run. So I even got my results back from the remote CheckDB, like I should have, right? And I can also tell. Let me get over here. If there were any errors in the CheckDB, so if CheckDB reported any errors, then it would say in here complete with errors, and then you would be able to come in here and see how many allocation and consistency errors there were right there. There we go. And I think there are some somewhere in this log that have some. Nope. Okay, I must have truncated that. All right. So, but that's what that looks like. It would have consistency and allocation errors in there. And you have the CheckDB results from that remote box in the other table. And let me go back here. Here's where I am. So you can see here that the last CheckDB was run on 111, and here it is 116. So let me refresh this and see if the CheckDB was indeed run on that foreign box. Minion dev 116 717. So there you go. The remote CheckDB ran on that foreign box. And again, this is connected mode. So let's go through this one more time, because I know that some of you are going to have a little bit of trouble with this conceptually. So we're in this row right here. I've got an override row for Minion dev and CheckDB. If I wanted to do all the databases on this server remotely, then I would use Minion default CheckDB instead, right? I would use row 1. So what you need to have in place, you need to check. Got away from me there. There we are. You need to check is remote equals true. You need to give it a server. You need to give it a port if it's not 1433. If it is, just leave it alone. You need to give me the preferred database name. And you need to tell me whether or not it's connected or disconnected mode. The restore mode, do I want to restore a database? We said none, so I want to do it against a database that's already there. And then do I want to drop that database afterwards? In this case, definitely not, right? So let's go ahead and look at preferred database name, because the preferred database name can be anything, right? The way we do this is, right now we've got an inline token in there, but I could have just as easily said Minion dev, right? I could have just as easily have given it a hard-coded database name. Let's go ahead and run that and see what it looks like. It's going to look the exact same. Let's give that just a minute. I'm going to pause and come back when it's done. There we go. That's done. So let's come over here and let's check the results. You can see here, we got the exact same thing. Minion dev is remote minion. And now you see, instead of the inline token for the preferred DB name, we got the hard-coded database that we put in there. But it doesn't check to make sure which database it is, right? So I could pick anything. Let's pick another database on here. Let's pick bit2, right? So I could easily run this against bit2. There we go. And now let's run it. And that's a really tiny database. It should happen really fast. There we go. And now let's take a look at the results. So now you can see I've got the exact same thing. I'm complete, 100%. The database name that I'm running it on is Minion dev, but it was restored as bit2 now on the foreign server. And so you can see here, is remote, yes, preferred server, Minion dev con, preferred database name was bit2, connected mode, and so on, right? So the database doesn't matter. Now, let's get into the scenario where you may have another process that restores the database as a dated version every single time, right? So you've got like Minion Dev 2017-01 17 and then 01-18 and then 01-19, or you do it every week or something like that, right? You may have you may have something like that where you're doing these named restores that follow some kind of pattern that you can figure out. So if you're doing something like that, then as long as it ends in a %, then we will go to the foreign box and figure that out. So let's take a look here. I've got Minion Dev, or actually let's just do Minion %. Now, what makes this different from the inline token is inline tokens are surrounded by %, and this one only has a trailing %, right? So what's going to happen is with this trailing %, it's going to connect to the remote box, and it's going to run a query and say, you know, give me all of, you know, give me the server with the latest date, with the latest create date that matches this like string, right? So it's gonna go with the latest created one that meets that. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what we're going to come up with. And honestly, I don't know what we're going to come up with. Let me run that, and I'm going to pause this, and then we'll come back when it's done. Okay, now that's finished. Now, I don't know about you, but I am dying to see which one it chose. So here we are. It's the 367 run, and it chose Minion 1023 680. And you'll see that everything is the exact same. Here I've got Minion %, right? So again, that %, if I've just got 1%, it'll make it go look it up on the other server. Now let's see if that exists. And you see that database doesn't actually exist on the other server, and that's because it is a snapshot of the Minion database. So if you have a snapshot already that you want to run it against, then just make sure that whatever you put in here meets that snapshot criteria, right? It meets the naming convention of the snapshot, and it'll choose the latest snapshot. It's actually pretty nifty. Now let's go ahead and prove just one more thing here. Let's create a new database, and we'll call it Minion Sean Video, right? That way there's no way in the world that it could be anything else. And I just want to show you that it will choose the last. Here it is right down here. Let's do a refresh so it's in order, right? Let's do a refresh. It always takes a second for it to refresh on this box. There we go. And let's take a look at this. And so there is the Minion Sean video right there. And if I come back to, let's see, where is it? Right here. And if I look at all the databases on this box, the last time they had a CheckDB, there's Minion Sean video, and it's never had a CheckDB, right? Okay, so now we're just looking for Minion %, and what it should do is it should look for the latest create date of the database that follows the Minion % convention. So we don't have to change anything. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. Let's run it. Now, while that's running, I want to point out another excellent feature of Minion CheckDB. I think we've really crossed the finish line on this one. Is the remote, is the live insight. So if I take a look at this, oh, it's already done, hasn't it? Yep, it's already done. I missed it. I'll go back to the other one in a second, and you'll see what I mean. But right now, let's take a look at what it shows. So here's the 270 run. And you can see here that it shows Minion Sean video from Minion %. So it will take that last one that was created. So if you've got that situation where you've got rolling restores, right, then just pick a naming convention and we'll automatically pick the latest one. Let's go ahead and delete this video right here, or this database right here. Let's close any connections just in case. There we go. And so this should go back to that last one, that snapshot, this guy right here. And what I want to do is I want to show you the monitoring, because You know, honestly, I'm actually pretty proud of this monitoring. Let's go ahead and run this. And let's give it a sec here. It's got to spin up. And then as we do this, now look, it says right here that it's running CheckDB on Minion DevCon in connected mode. And it even gives you the name of the database right here. And as it goes through, we'll even give you the percentage complete. So even as you're running it here on the primary box, you can see that it's running CheckDB on a foreign box that tells you what mode. It gives you the name of the database that it's running against and the percentage complete. Here we are at 53%. So this is a tremendous feature that we bring to the table, so that not only do we let you have that remote CheckDB, but you also can check on the status of it very easily and even see which server it's running on. There it is at 85. Because you could have 50 databases on this primary server, and all of them running remote CheckDBs on dozens of different servers. And, you know, here you can tell if there's a problem or whatnot. You can tell, you know, which server is having the problem. And there we are. We're finished at 100%. See, it did hit that. It did hit that snapshot again. And now you've got all the information. And I already showed you that you can get from the snapshot from the database log from the results table. Where is it? So this is the 560. If I could find the CheckDB result, there it is. Too many queries. There we go. And there's the 560, and I've got all of my data in there. So there you go. That is how to run the simplest scenario with remote CheckDB in connected mode with no restore. And it's just that easy. And you can see we bring a lot of features to the table. Enjoy.